Welcome back to Nancy's Homestyle Kitchen, where we make real food that tastes like home. And today we're going to take my classic New York cheesecake recipe and give it the coziest Christmas twist. We're going to change it up and we're going to add eggnog, some Buffalo Trace bourbon cream. The other thing we're going to do to change this up a bit is take that graham cracker crust and kick it up a notch by adding some gingersnap crumbs. Let me show you how I make it. Here's everything I use to bake the cheesecake. So I have a large roasting pan that fits my springform pan just about perfectly. Then I take a sheet of heavy duty aluminum foil and you want to fold up the sides as best as you can all the way around the pan. You want to be careful not to tear the foil. Take a second sheet of foil and then I put the pan in the opposite direction because one side of your foil is going to be shorter than the other. So I want to make sure that I have enough foil all the way around, that I am not going to get any water seeping in between the foil and into my pan because that will ruin your cheesecake. So here you see, it's all in there. Go ahead and spray it with some nonstick spray and we're ready to go. Here I'm crushing up some gingersnap cookies in my food processor, and we're going to be using this for the crust. You're going to need 3/4 cup of gingersnap cookies, and I'll be mixing that with some graham cracker crumbs that I'll talk about here in just a moment. So now that our pan is prepared and ready to go, I'm preheating the oven to 375 degrees, and the first thing we need to do is make our crust. I will list all of the ingredients down in the description box, but what I have in here is 3/4 cup of graham cracker crumbs, and you can either crunch up your own graham crackers in a Ziploc bag or a food processor, or you can actually buy the crumbs already made at the grocery store. So that's what I had. And then I also have 3/4 cup of crushed up gingersnap cookies. So I just threw those into my food processor and pulsed them until it was a fine crumb texture, just like the graham crackers. So in total, we have 1.5 cups of crumbs. And it's basically half and half graham crackers and ginger snaps. And to that, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of sugar. The ginger snaps are already sweet, so I don't wanna add much more sugar, just a tiny bit is gonna be fine. And then I need a dash of salt. So I'm just going to do that. Dash, pinch, whatever. And then in this pan, I have melted 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. So we will add that to the crumbs. Okay, and then just mix it all together so you have a wet consistency bowl of crumbs. And they should kind of start sticking together, because what we're going to do is we're going to put them into the bottom of the springform pan, and we are going to press it with a glass and get them all compacted, and that's what's making the base crust for the cheesecake. So you can see how you can tell all of the crumbs have butter throughout and there's no dry spots left. So that's how you want to get it before you dump it into the springform pan. So let's bring the springform pan over here. Again, I sprayed this with nonstick cooking spray. Just go ahead and dump it in. And then I like to use my little spatula here and spread it across the bottom as evenly as I can before I go in with the glass and start compressing. So I just have a drinking glass. You could see this one has a pretty sharp edge, and that's what I like. And I'm just gonna start in the middle and kind of work my way out. And you can kind of start going around and give it an initial compaction, just to make sure you get it even, and then go back around and then really compact it. That's what it looks like initially. So we'll go ahead and now we're gonna go in and really compact that in. So this is gonna bake in the 375-degree oven for 10 minutes. And while this is baking, we will get the filling for the cheesecake prepared. This recipe is fairly easy. There's just some steps with getting the foil around the pan and digging the pans out of your cupboards, boiling the water. But really the ingredients are pretty straightforward and the steps aren't that bad, and it just yields the most beautiful, rich and creamy cheesecake. And if you like New York cheesecake, I will put my original recipe in the description for that too, so you can have both of them. Okay, that is compact. And now I'm gonna go ahead, I'll pop it in the oven for 10 minutes and then I'll meet you right back here. So I just pulled the crust out of the oven. It's sitting behind me cooling while we get the filling ready. I've also reduced the temperature of the oven to 325 degrees, and I have boiled a kettle of water, as you can see back here, because we're gonna pour that around the cheesecake to cook it. So to start, I have 4 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese in my mixer. So that's a total of 32 ounces of cream cheese. And to that, we're gonna add 2 cups of sugar. And then I need 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Just gonna use the back of my spatula to level that off. I'm gonna use my paddle attachment. Now this cream cheese I did set out this morning, so it is room temperature, so it is soft. You definitely don't want to do this with really cold cream cheese because it just won't blend up. So we just need to get this incorporated for about 1 minute. That's been about 30 seconds. I want to scrape down the sides of the bowl. Get it back up there. Just balance that there. Okay, let's add the other dry ingredients. I have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 3/4 of a teaspoon of fresh grated nutmeg. If you can do fresh grated nutmeg, it really tastes amazing. I just use this little grater. I think I got it off Amazon for like $4. And you buy a whole nutmeg and just grate it. It goes really quick, but it smells so good and fresh. And then I just have a slight pinch of cloves in there. Cloves can totally overdo it. So I don't even think it's 1/8 of a teaspoon. I mean, it is not much at all. Then I want to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And then we're gonna get yummy. Here is the Buffalo Trace Bourbon Cream. We're gonna add a 1/4 cup of that and a 1/4 cup of just regular old-fashioned classic eggnog. In my regular cheesecake recipe, I do lemon juice, lemon zest, and instead of the bourbon cream and the eggnog, I have sour cream. Okay, let's get this mixed up. Start on low because with all that liquid in there, if you go too high, it's just gonna splatter everywhere. Okay, the last thing we need to add are 6 cracked eggs. So these have come up to room temperature, and crack each one in a bowl separately. So that way you could be sure there are no shells. And then just add them one at a time to the mixture. You see? There's a shell. That would have went right into the cheesecake, and I would have been, if I was lucky, I would have found it, but probably not. And then you don't want to overmix this. You just want everything to come together. Oh my gosh, you can smell the bourbon and the nutmeg. It smells like eggnog and Christmas and just delicious. So let's give it another 30 seconds or so. And I'm gonna get it up just a little bit. I wanna make sure there's no egg yolks still in there that I didn't already incorporate into the mixture. Okay, that is it. Okay, so bring your roasting pan over here. It's cooled off enough for me to touch, but here is our baked crust. So just set that in there, and then we just need to pour all of this into the crust. And it really fills up this pan. I'll put the size of the pan also down into, I want to say it's a 9-inch, but I will be sure to put that down in the recipe notes as well. I cannot wait to have this. It smells so good. Scoot your cheesecake carefully over to one side, because now we need to pour this boiling water into here. And I'm gonna make a little block because I don't want any of that water. There we go. And this is why we double wrap it in foil. We don't want any of this water getting into the pan to ruin the cheesecake. When I was putting this into the oven to bake, I was careful. I went into the oven and then I set it down. I didn't want to slide the bottom because I didn't want to tear the foil on the bottom of this pan. Okay, you can see how steamy it is. This is gonna go in the oven. It takes about 1 hour and 45 minutes to bake. Again, it's reduced to 325 degrees. Don't forget to do that step. And then I will show you what it looks like when it is set. Okay, so we'll be back in roughly 2 hours or so. I'll see you in a little bit. So here is the cheesecake just out of the oven. Now you could see it is set around the side, and when I touch it, it kind of jiggles like Jell-O, but it feels springy and bouncy. It feels like Jell-O. It doesn't feel wet. I think you might be tempted to feel like it's not done and to keep it in the oven, but don't. Just get it to here, like if you're touching Jell-O and it moves around, but you can tell Jell-O is set all the way through. Don't keep baking it because then you'll dry it out and it'll crack for sure. So I want this to sit in this water and cool for 45 minutes. Then I'll take it out, put it on a cooling rack and let it completely cool. Once it's finished cooling, I'm gonna cover it in plastic wrap and I'm gonna refrigerate it overnight. It needs at least 8 hours. And then we'll come back. We'll make a bourbon cream, whipped cream to go with it, and we'll cut into it and serve it. So I will see you tomorrow. The whipped topping is super simple. Just add 1 cup of heavy whipping cream to the bowl of a stand mixer, add in 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar, 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 2 tablespoons of that Buffalo Trace bourbon cream. And then you're just gonna whisk it up until it forms stiff peaks and looks like the consistency of whipping cream. It is the next day and it is time to unmold the cheesecake and see how we did. So it's been well over 8 hours. Just refrigerating it overnight is absolutely perfect. And you can see I used some of the cling wrap because I really wanted it to stick to this plate that I have it on. And the first thing we want to do is take a knife and run it around the outside and make sure you'll feel the crust down there. Make sure you're going all the way down to the bottom because we do need to get that crust unmolded from the side. The cheesecake looks like it's pretty much pulled away from the side. But the crust, I can feel some tension down there, and I don't want that to come up when we take this side off. Okay. Let's cross our fingers and hope it comes out. Look at how pretty that is. So here is our finished cheesecake. You can see that nice layer of the gingersnap and graham crust. And there's a little bit of butter came down here, but that's no problem. It's just any excess butter that came out during the baking process from the crust. Okay, the real moment of truth. Can we get this off of this tray and onto our serving dish? So I'm hopefully optimistic. I just ran my knife around the bottom. I don't want it to crack. Okay. The trick is doing it as slow as possible. And I'm just gonna kind of center that. Yay! I'm excited it came off. So normally I have just left the cheesecake on the bottom of the springform pan, but when I set it on my pedestal and I go to cut it, it moves around, and plus it just doesn't look pretty. So I think the keys to success on that are a very thin knife that when I ran it around the bottom, I really kind of angled the knife down towards the bottom of the plate to make sure I was kind of scraping, and I just took my time and did it a couple times, and then moving it off of that because it has a tendency to want to stick because there's so much weight, and then the butter, it doesn't just slide off. Just take your time and go slow. But otherwise, I think it looks great. So let's go ahead and cut into it, and we'll give it a try. And here is our beautiful cheesecake. Let me push that over to the side. And then here is that whipped cream that we just made with the bourbon cream and some powdered sugar and a little more nutmeg. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this on top. Another way to do this would be to leave the cheesecake in the pan, go ahead and run your knife around, loosen it up, the next morning after it's sat, loosen it up around the edge, but still leave it in the pan, and then make your whipped cream and layer your whipped cream in an even layer all over the top, and then let that chill for another hour or so. Run your knife around so that way when you unmold it, you have a layer of the whipped cream and then the cheesecake and the crust. So one more thing. Let's get out our fresh nutmeg. And to garnish it, now you guys know I'm not a decorator, so just do a little fresh grated nutmeg over the top. Will really help carry through that eggnog flavor even more. And let's give it a try. Get some of that whipped cream. And it has that custardy eggnog color. It smells like heaven. This tastes like Christmas. The nutmeg, spices, the little bit of cinnamon, the ginger from the ginger snaps that we added to the crust, the eggnog and the bourbon. I just keep messing up. So I can just taste it again. Anyway, now I'm all flustered. Okay. What y'all don't know is I can't record this outro. So every time I re-record it, I get to take another bite, and it's truly my hidden MO. No, seriously, this is a great addition to any holiday table. I hope you give it a try. If you do, please let me know in the comments. Also, if you like this type of content, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing, and I will be back next week with another recipe from my kitchen. Happy holidays to you and yours.